Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing great out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day and a great week out there so far. We got a ton of information to go over in this morning's video, and this is how we're going to break it down. First, we're going to talk about this weekend's winter storm risk. We'll get very detailed on that, compare model guidance, and then we'll break down next week's winter storm threats. We'll compare model guidance on that also, but we won't get as detailed on that as we'll get on this weekend's winter storm threat. Both will be a high impact winter storm, I do believe. So we'll speak on that. Timestamps will section both of those portions, both of those storms out in the video for you folks. And then we will break down today's winter storm, but it is today's winter storm. It's ongoing right now. We've already had some ice accumulations out there. We've had thunder sleet, meaning like thunderstorms of sleet. We've had tornado warnings. In fact, we have ongoing tornado warnings right now in Kentucky. That might change by the time some of you folks watch this video, obviously. But there's a lot going on with this storm system today, but I will be able to put that in today's forecast portion of the video, which I do in every morning video towards the end of this video. So if you're looking for information for today's winter storm, then definitely just jump to the end of the video. I got you covered there. But chances are, if you're being impacted by today's winter storm, you're going to get impacted by all the other winter storms on the way also. So there's a lot to cover. This pattern definitely supports some of the same areas getting hit over and over and over again. So it is full steam ahead. I will most likely be doubling up the video starting today. So I will most likely have a video tonight for you folks. And there's just going to be a lot to cover, a lot of information, definitely information overload for sure. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below. So let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So we're going to start by speaking on the central U.S. Not going to spend super long on this area. Then we'll go to the eastern U.S. and we'll just get the ball rolling here. So we'll start off Friday afternoon. So this is the storm system for this weekend. Tomorrow. So, I mean, this is already right behind the one happening right now. So we got snow breaking out over the Dakotas, heavy snow in Montana. We'll keep this rolling. This is the latest 06Z Euro too. So this is fresh information that literally dropped under an hour ago. So we got light snow and it'll be pretty cold up here. So this will have no issues accumulating up here in the Dakotas. And then once this gets into Minnesota, you see the darker blue showing up. Then you start to get some heavier snow, and this could accumulate to a few, maybe several inches of snow in areas of Minnesota. And then this starts to tap into some more moisture from the south, and we start to get more widespread snow across the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes region. And then we could get an ice element to this, maybe somewhere between the snow and the rain. We have to watch kind of in northern Minnesota, northern Indiana, heck, maybe even southern sections of lower Michigan. But up here, this is all snow. And I don't think this is going to be a snowstorm that gives you 12 inches of snow up here in Wisconsin or getting into Michigan as we're getting into our Saturday, which, you know, I'm going to forget to mention days occasionally. So look up here, SAT February 8th. So that's this Saturday here in the next couple days. We got snow in Wisconsin, snow in Michigan. And this continues, and there's that more icy element starting to show up as we're getting into Saturday night. And we'll be able to zoom into this a little bit more, but this is more so freezing rain in northern Indiana and then areas of northwest Ohio. I don't think this is going to be a major ice situation for you folks, but it's something to watch out for. But we're getting into Saturday evening, and this system is delivering snow, heavier snow for areas of northern Wisconsin and sections like that. And northern lower Michigan. And then this begins to head out and we start to introduce our next storm system, which we'll talk about that here in a second. But then we start to break down the Northeast. Now, this winter storm coming this weekend is going to be what I think a pretty high impact winter storm. I don't think it'll be long lasting, but I think it'll pack one heck of a punch. So as we're getting into Saturday morning, here it comes. We got already a wintry mix based off the latest Euros. Make sure we have the whole thing in view here. We do. So already a wintry mix breaking out Saturday morning, maybe Saturday afternoon across northern VA. An icy mix, maybe just snow in areas of Maryland. A freezing rain shows up in pink. The sleet is in orange, and we keep this going. And heck, an all-out winter weather event breaking out across southern sections of New Jersey. I think this will be a colder system than this system we're dealing with today. And then we start to bring it into Saturday night. We got a nasty, icy mix, freezing rain down here in D.C., Baltimore, getting into Philadelphia could start off as snow in New York City. And it's kind of a similar setup for southern areas of Ohio, West Virginia, Southwest PA, where you might start off as ice and then you might go to rain. So we'll get rid of the icing issues and just go to good old-fashioned rain. But you continue, this system begins to deepen and we start to get heavier moisture that begins to blossom into this cold air. So this is getting into late Saturday evening around 10 p.m., give or take a couple hours, and we got heavier snow north of the ice corridor, but this is nasty ice in northeast Ohio, maybe just hanging on to snow in far northeast Ohio and northwest PA like Erie. And this is starting off as a thumping of snow in New York City. Then we get in the middle of the night, Saturday night, and man, this is just a nasty ice storm breaking out across PA. Snow goes to freezing rain in like Philadelphia. And this is just a big thumping of snow right at the beginning of this. Starting to move into southern New England, but it's still snowing pretty hard at this point in the middle of the night, Saturday night and Sunday morning. New York City, Long Island, and look at the snow starting to move into Boston. And this is really trending into a colder storm. So you're hanging on to all frozen precipitation in like New York City, northern New Jersey. It's kind of a wintry mix in areas of PA. You actually might switch to snow where you might stay freezing rain for a time. We're going to get more details on this here in the next 24 hours and 48 hours, but this is all snow in southern New England, certainly all snow once you get further north in New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, but this is a quick hitting snowstorm indicated by models in like Boston, heavier snow in like the far southern sections of New England. I'm talking about south of Boston. I mean, Cape Cod, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, down to Rhode Island. And it really cranks up out here in southeast Mass. And it's just kind of one of those kind of flatter systems, which means it's colder, but you don't get as heavier snow up here in Maine. So it might not be a big event for Maine, but this thing kind of goes zonal, heads on out. Nothing really locking it to really kind of lock in and grind up the coastline, really strengthen. But I mean, this is Saturday night. Okay, this is getting to Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon. It's just a quick hitting snowstorm, but a heavy snowstorm for Boston, and then that heads on out. What about the GFS? Now, I'm not going to compare the GFS out west because I don't think this is going to be as high of an impact system further to the west in the Great Lakes region. I think this is going to be more of a high impact system for the Northeast. So what about the GFS? What is it showing? The GFS continues to like the idea of a wintry mix breaking out as early as, heck, before the sun comes up in northern VA. So I think we could definitely have kind of a sneaky wintry mix that could accumulate down here before the sun even comes up in northern VA. Heck, I mean, maybe even the Tidewater, maybe not that south, but maybe the Delmarva could get a wintry mix of snow and sleet, maybe freezing rain, and this hangs around. But then the meat of the system really comes in Saturday night. So this is like 7, 8 p.m. Here comes that nasty wintry mix coming in into PA. And then we start to get into Saturday night, February the 8th. And this is starting off just like what the Euro shows in GFS, a thumping of heavy, wet snow. And with this low pressure right in here, of course, it's going to bring a lot of warm air aloft. It's going to bring just a lot of moist air with it. So you'll get these very fat snowflakes, I think, right in this area, kind of the PA, New York state line, New Jersey, same thing. The Catskills, the Poconos will get rocked with really heavy snow right at the beginning of the system. And then you might start to have mixing issues. Right in the middle of the night, Saturday night, same thing, GFS, bringing this heavy corridor of snow right into here in New York, southern New England, all of New England just about. And once again, just like what the Euro shows, it doesn't bring the very heavy snow very far north up into Maine. And but a lot of times these things like to be a little bit further north than what models indicate. But this is really looking like a southern New England special and could be widespread half a foot snowfall totals or more in certain areas. Now, New York City kind of goes, and Long Island kind of goes to heavy snow to just an icy mix. Whether that's going to be more freezing rain or sleet, not quite sure. Could trend colder. But this is getting into Sunday morning. This thing is heading on out, and then we get a break before another system next week. So what about snow totals? So we're going to actually look at pivotal weather, and we're going to look at the Euro. So I think we have the latest Euro. Let's see if we can get the new data here, and just bear with me here. So yeah, so we're good here. This is the system this is kind of before this system. So ignore all this. And here comes the snow from the Euro for the Dakotas, because I don't want to leave my family hanging out here in the Dakotas. I know I got viewers in this region, but this is the snowfall between now and let's go all the way through about, it's about pretty much Sunday morning, okay? You see this stripe of accumulating snow based off the latest 06Z Euro that goes right through really southern North Dakota. And it really wants to drop a few to maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches of snow in Minneapolis, but it really begins to get higher once you get into Wisconsin. I don't think you have to worry about any icing issues in this area, but just a corridor of light snowfall accumulations for you guys as standards here in the Dakotas. And then we start to move a little bit further east. Okay, same thing, and let's go on and switch this to the 06Z, see if anything's changed. And this is total snowfall. So everything you're seeing up here is kind of before the event. So you'll have to add the total to some of these areas. And then here comes the event. This is Friday afternoon. This is getting into Saturday. And then this is getting into Sunday morning. Okay. Stop it here. This is Sunday midday. And look how much snow the Euro drops in these areas. You see how this area kind of blossoms. So, I mean, the northern half of Wisconsin, some areas could get over a half a foot of snow with this. And same thing with northern sections of lower Michigan. This could be kind of a 5 to maybe as much as 10-inch snow event. So this could definitely be a heavier event for you folks. So don't downplay this event. Like, you know, this is, let's back this up. Okay, so this is tomorrow midday. This is getting into Saturday morning. This is Saturday afternoon. And this is all the way into Sunday morning, Sunday midday. So this event drops several inches of snow in your area. And up here in the UP, this is kind of between a little bit of this system moving in this weekend and the snow before. In fact, y'all got blizzard warnings right now. At the Kinawa Peninsula up here in areas of the western UP of Michigan. So this is snowfall off the operational run of the 06Z Euro for this system. Now let's start to get into the meat of this system. So I'm going to do it in 24-hour periods. Okay. So it might be a little confusing to look at, but just follow with me, okay? So this is the snow the Euro is predicting, and let's see if we got same thing, the 06Z. Sorry, I'm doing a lot of switching here, but the 06Z Euro is actually coming in right now, so I have new data I can show you guys. So let's back it up a little bit, just an example. This is a 24-hour period. So this is the snow happening today, at least what this model's forecasting. For the system over the next 24 to 36 hours. So as you can tell, that evaporates, disappears, right? So we start to get into Saturday morning, all right? All right, we start to get into Saturday evening, and then bang, we start to get into Sunday morning. So 24-hour periods. So you see how bang, snow accumulations pop up out of nowhere. So you can tell it really is wanting, and this is the weekend storm, okay? 24-hour snowfall, and this system is going to last no more than 24 hours for most people. It really wants to hit, I would say, northeast PA, good chunk of New York, especially the southern and southeastern sections of New York, southern New England, and then the southern half of Vermont, New Hampshire, heck, even southern sections of Maine, pretty good with at least a half a foot of snow. This is all from the weekend storm. Boston going for over 8 inches. I mean, Hartford, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Providence. You guys some areas are close to 10 inches of snow if I put my cursor here. A lot of snow in this area. This will be a quick hitting, high impact, wet snowstorm for sure. Probably your biggest one of the year of the winter, I would say, for a lot of these areas. Okay, and then, that heads on out and moves on out. So what about the latest GFS? Same thing, 24-hour periods, right? This is the system for today. You'll see that disappear on your screen. And then here comes the system for this weekend. Bang. The footprint's pretty much the same. The only difference I see is the GFS wants to dump heavier snow in the same areas, right? This area right here hit pretty hard. Some areas over a foot. GFS kind of can overdo things sometimes, but the thing I'm noticing here is it's giving more snow for the southern tier of New York and the northern counties of PA, and heck, even gives like over 6 inches of snow for like Buffalo. More snow for southern Ontario. So, you kind of compare that with this, and definitely the Euro is given accumulating snow for the southern tier of New York, but, the GFS certainly gives more. Okay, so what about icing? So this will be a little bit more difficult to explain because we can't look at 24-hour periods with icing here. So this is the icing for today, okay, predicted by the latest. And once again, we're going to have to switch this. I'm sorry, I keep having to do this, guys. This is the icing for today for these areas, okay? Watch how it increases. So kind of just say if you live right here or around State College, watch how it increases, especially for PA. Here comes the weekend storm. See how those numbers just kind of bumped up, especially in Pennsylvania and areas in Maryland. Heck, in some areas went up over a half an inch. So we'll be able to get all this clutter out of the way when we get this system out of the way over the next 24 to 36 hours. But there is another ice signal in here. And probably better way to look at this is if we look at the EPS and we look at the chances of a 1/4 inch of ice. This is probably the better way to look at it here. And you'll notice this is today, okay, over 100% chance. And then here comes the system after that. So this is the system this weekend. Once again, kind of the same areas. I mean, some areas 80 to 100% chance to see a 1/10 of an inch of freezing rain. So some of the same areas will get hit again with this nasty freezing rain. So we'll be able to get more detailed on that. When we get this system out the way over the next 24 to 36 hours, well, 24 really, we can stop combining all the clutter together and really hyper-focus on the weekend storm. And then we'll have to deal with the same thing with this next one this weekend. So, next week. So this is next week's storm system. There's a lot going on. And I think this is automatic to happen. It's just the details that are still fuzzy. So now we're going to go back west, start in the central U.S. We're going to start this with Sunday morning, February the 9th. Okay. Same thing. And I can actually look at the 06Z Euro. And I'm actually just going to stick with the OOZ because there's a lot of energy even to follow next week's storm system. So we start to get into Monday morning, not a whole lot going on, and then we get into Tuesday morning, the 11th. So this is February the 11th. All of a sudden, a lot of moisture begins to blossom up. It's a long system. I can get very detailed on this if I want, but there's no point because I think this will bounce back and forth. But there's a lot of Arctic air up here to the north, still a lot of warm, moist air down here. This combines, then you get overrunning, and this is just a lot of light to moderate snow in this area in the plains, and there'll be some sort of battleground right here. And you can tell, I mean, you got this heavier winter weather breaking out across areas of Missouri, southern Illinois, southern Indiana. How far north does that get? The latest Euro says, as we're getting into Tuesday, not very north, but there is some light snow that's getting into Tuesday evening. But what's wild is there's another system that follows after that, right? So there's like multiple rounds of precipitation overrunning the cold air. So this is getting into Wednesday. Here comes another system. Same thing, just winter weather across Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Iowa. Does it get all the way into northern Arkansas? And look at the freezing rain corridor next Wednesday night. Not a forecast, but, we get that one out of the way. We get into next Thursday, a week from today. And then we get all the way into next weekend. Here comes another system. And then after that, who knows what the heck happens. So what about the GFS? GFS, same thing, Sunday morning. We're getting into next Monday morning, the 10th of February. We're getting into Monday afternoon. And this is next Monday evening. We got winter weather breaking out as far south as northern Arkansas, northern Oklahoma. We got a wintry mess breaking out. And then this turns into a more substantial event by the time we're waking up Tuesday morning across areas, from the plains, Kansas, Nebraska, Missouri, Illinois, southern Indiana, heck, even Kentucky. And then this continues to move east. And then another system erupts, just like the Euro. And this does the same thing for the same similar areas. The common theme and the trend here is that the cold boundary doesn't really move a whole lot. But here comes another round. We're getting into Wednesday, another winter weather event. Flat out winter storm breaks out across some of the same areas. The plains, central plains, kind of the mid-Mississippi Valley, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana. And this begins to head east again. And then after that, does anything else happen? Who knows? It looks like we get a little bit of a quiet period, but that could change. But I can tell you even more energy follows after that. And what about the eastern U.S.? Okay, here there goes our first system, there goes our second system, the weekend storm that heads on out. And then here comes the latest Euro as we're getting into early next week. Now, one thing I want to mention, there's a lot of small little things to watch. For example, Monday afternoon, February the 10th, almost shows a little bit of snow in southern areas of Virginia trying to break out. And then the main system gets going. We're getting to Tuesday morning, February the 11th. There's that corridor of frozen precipitation somewhere. And what's the latest 06Z show? That's a little different. But, this is Sunday morning. We got snow breaking out across northern, even central Virginia. And this turns into an all-out, quick-hitting, wet snow event across the D.C., central Maryland, and Baltimore. And then this starts to crank up a winter weather event all the way up to New Jersey, New York City, Long Island. This is next Tuesday evening. And we get all the way into Tuesday night. Snow breaking out across southern New England. And if you compare that with the OOZ Euro, it's more amped up. Shows a more high impact event for southern New England, like sometime midway next week. There's so many rounds. It's tough to figure out. But I think the GFS and the Euro both show another round of moisture coming in. But it does look really amped up. But it shows this nasty corridor of ice through the Ohio Valley, the Midwest. And then it turns into kind of another just winter weather event for New England, the Northeast, but a lot of rain to the south. It wants to really pump the ridge. I'll talk about that here in a second. And and then after that, another system comes, but that looks kind of warm too. So next week's stuff is kind of just like a week-long event. It's very tough to figure out. And like, for example, with the GFS, Monday morning, it has snow for the northern counties of North Carolina, southern counties of Virginia, some wet snow falling for a good 12 hours, and that heads on out. And then the main event comes. It's much colder. Shows winter weather as far south as northern Kentucky. Look how long this is. I mean, this is stretching all the way back from the plains all the way to the coastal areas in the mid-Atlantic. We got heavy snow moving to D.C. We got snow into West Virginia. We got a lot going on here. And then we get into Tuesday night. This turns into an all-out winter storm for the mid-Atlantic, the southern sections of the Northeast and the New England area. And then that heads on out. And then here comes another system behind it. Looks much warmer. There's just a lot. And here comes another system on the GFS at the end of next week. This all snow for the most part. So, yeah, guys, a lot is going on, as you can tell. We're going to have a lot to talk about. So what I'll show you here is the latest Euro ensemble, okay, between now and next Friday evening. Let's start off in the Central Plains. There is a good 2 to as much as 4-inch snowfall average here in the Central Plains and areas of the Midwest. I mean, it definitely increases once you get closer to St. Louis, central, south central, Missouri. You even got starting to get into what I would say a several-inch snowfall average. And this is blending multiple storms together next week. Okay, so keep that in mind. And then we get into a little bit further east. We're going to start off Tuesday morning, not much going on. We start to get into, Monday morning. Then we start getting to Tuesday morning, and then you can see, the footprint of snow begin to show up as we get into the early to middle portion of next week. We start to get this few-inch snowfall average, and once again, we'll take it all the way out to, let's go all the way out to Friday evening of next week. So about 8 days from now. And there is this corridor between Missouri through Illinois, Indiana, through Ohio that shows anywhere from a 2 to as much as a 4-inch snowfall average. And there's probably going to be ice in this too. And I don't have an ice mean or average pulled up, but you're probably going to run the risk of ice in this area somewhere too. And there's even a little bit of a signal down in Tennessee, I would add too, in northern Arkansas. Okay. And then we start to move into the mid-Atlantic. Same thing. And we're going to move it to 24-hour periods now. So you're going to see areas appear, then disappear. So we're getting into Monday morning, and it is picking up on that light snowfall event for this area kind of Monday-ish of next week. Okay? And then you'll see that kind of disappear, maybe reappear as more energy shows up. And then we're starting to get into Tuesday midday. There's that few-inch snowfall footprint here. Remember the Euro ensemble, blends 51 members together. Some members might show nothing. Some members might show 10 inches of snow. And you'll notice it really begins to blossom from the mid-Atlantic up into southern New England. So all of a sudden, we got this corridor, even around the DC to Philadelphia area, of a 4.5 inch snowfall average. But it's really, I'm going to miss saying a lot of states, guys, because there's so much information to go over. But that's why it's important to know where you are on a map. And that's not a knock on anybody, but people really get heated sometimes when I don't mention their state. But when we're talking about multiple winter storms impacting so many states, man, it is hard to cover them all. And then that signal begins to increase as we get into Wednesday morning for southern New England next week. We start to get a few inch snowfall average up here. And then what's wild is there's other signals after this. We're getting to Thursday. It looks like the footprint of snow definitely increases to the north, which kind of follows the operational run, right? Which is showing a warmer system later in the next week. And yeah, so one last look at this, and we'll show the northeast. Same thing, 24-hour periods. And here it comes increasing midway next week. There's that snowstorm signal up here, winter storm signal. And then that heads on out. There's another signal for getting into Thursday for another winter storm. This favors a little bit further north maybe. And then, heck, maybe another one sometime next weekend. So there's a lot to cover. And one thing I'll say, between now and the next 10 days, this is the chances of a foot of snow. The latest Euro ensemble is going for a 90 to 100% chance in like Boston, areas of Vermont, southern Maine, the Adirondacks of New York, even the Catskills have a solid signal. This is for 1 foot of snow. And heck, even New York City has a just below 50% chance. This is the chance of 6 inches of snow. Pretty high. This is the chances of 2 feet of snow. I'm going to have to go back and get this going. 2 feet of snow. Not very high, but yeah. So you ask, if you live in the South, there are really areas just that do not look to be in the avenue of this winter weather. Why aren't we getting into the fun? So it's all because, and we'll keep this very short and simple. You see the orange, that is a ridge. You see the blue, that is colder air, where all your energy. Normally, kind of between the area of the orange and the blue, that is way too small. Orange and the blue kind of in this area right here, that is where all your energy is just kind of flowing. Now, you keep this going and the ridge just dominates. We're getting into this weekend. Ridge is dominating the South. It continues to dominate the South. It's dominating the eastern U.S. And the reason why you're seeing the storm systems kind of track further north as we're getting into later next week is because of this. The ridge begins to pump all the way up into the northeast. So therefore, your storm systems are probably going to go like this. Rather, if you back it up here to say earlier in the week, all right, so like right in here, storm systems kind of can, kind of go like this, or heck, even like this, a little bit better. But then that ridge begins to pump up the eastern seaboard and becomes relentless. Now, do we get breaks in it? I don't know. But you go 10 days out on the latest GFS, and it just is ridge, ridge, ridge until the cows come home. Now, you mix that with an incredibly active jet, and we'll look at 250 millibar winds, which is around where your jet sits, where your storm track is going to roll. And the jet is hyper and is excited and it is roaring. And you can tell it's bowing up to the north once it gets to the eastern U.S. So you can see that it's kind of dropping down right here and then shooting across like this. Not a good color to use. Kind of like that. And that jet is just kind of just going to the north. That's why everybody in the South, heck, even areas kind of far north are just getting a ton of rain. So there's a flooding risk with this too, and there's just so much to go over that, heck, I don't even have a lot of time to go over it. But as far as today's weather, guys, it's very active. We have a winter storm ongoing right now. We have severe thunderstorm warnings. Luckily, the tornado warnings are no longer in effect. Southeast pretty quiet, but of course we have a big system moving into the west. This will be part of our energy that ends up making it all the way to the northeast this weekend. But this is moving across southern New England. This is big thumping of snow that's starting to move into New England, and we got heavy sleet. A lot of warm air already starting to move in, starting to change that sleet, freezing rain into rain. But this is watches, warnings, and advisories. We got winter weather advisories in these areas in purple, scattered across all these counties. These are continued ice storm warnings that will expire in the next several hours. Winter weather advisories will expire to the west here in a bit. We got this tornado watch down here that will expire in the next 4 hours for Kentucky. And then we'll move back out here. A lot of winter storm warnings in the pink, winter weather advisories in the purple. We even have blizzard warnings up here in the UP of Michigan. We have winter storm watches. I told you guys are going to get several inches of snow potentially in areas of the Dakotas. I mean, Minneapolis, and we got winter storm watches that expand. They're kind of overlapped by winter weather advisories all the way into Wisconsin. Well, Milwaukee itself doesn't have winter storm watches, but Green Bay does. Minneapolis does. So there is definitely going to be a winter storm for this weekend in these areas. And I think we're going to get winter storm watches in lower Michigan too. But we'll kind of zoom out here. Let's get these watches and warnings off. And let's look at the risk of severe weather today. There is a marginal risk of severe weather in this area and dark green. So there's a level 1 out of 5 risk of severe weather. Tornado risk, there's a 2% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. These are for these storms that are making their way across Kentucky and eventually across Tennessee over the next 24 hours. So watch out for tornadoes in this area, some damaging winds, some small hail is possible with this too. So if you live in this region today, there is a 2% risk of a tornado. Okay, so the risk of excessive rainfall, not that bad today, but kind of the same areas that run the risk of some severe weather does have a 5% risk of flash flooding. But the southeast today, here are those storms we watch out for later on today. You could get upgraded to a slight risk. We're going to have thunderstorms that will continue across Tennessee, even areas of Kentucky. Heck, some thunderstorms could make their way into northern Georgia. And we could get some storms that make it all the way across the mountains of North Carolina and Virginia and eventually cruise across the VA, North Carolina line later tonight. Bring some rounds of rain across the mountains. And then we're waking up tomorrow morning to some rain maybe across the Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi line here. Now, up here in the Northeast, winter storm will move in. We'll get that thumping of snow in Boston. Potentially stays all snow. This is heavy, wet snow up here in Vermont, New Hampshire, northern New York. But you can see how the purple, which is sleet, the pink, which is freezing rain, begins to take over some of that snow. You know, for like Boston, for example, you might go to sleet, you might go to freezing rain, and then eventually it'll end. It kind of loses some gas, loses that heavier precipitation, but this will move into Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, bring some snow for you guys. And then by the time we're into this evening, some lingering energy from the northwest will swing through in the form of some snow showers, but then we're done. But as far as snowfall between now and the next 48 hours, pretty much this system, good 3 inches of snow could fall into Boston. Southern New England, good for 2 to 3 inches of snow. Hopefully you can see your area on the screen pretty well, going for around an inch in New York City. But we could get some ice certainly in this area too. Well, guess they're not calling for any ice. But that's cool. And that makes sense because there really isn't going to be a whole lot. I just was assuming there was going to be a little bit showing up. But snowfall up here in New England, a few inches of snow is possible. Portland, 4 to 5. So you could get a quick thumping of snow from this. Some areas in those higher elevated favor regions could get 6 inches of snow. Burlington, inch or 2 inches of snow. Rutland, 2.5. Bangor, 3 inches of snow. Caribou, probably around the same thing. And we'll take it back down to New York, show you guys. Certainly some heavier snow. This is also off lake enhanced stuff. So, you know, the Tuckhill Plateau is going to do well. Over a half a foot's possible. Some areas can get closer to 10 inches of snow. Syracuse itself, maybe around 2 inches. Utica, hopefully I said that right, around 5 inches. Albany, inch and a half. About Binghamton, about an inch of snow. Some ice in this area. I don't know why it's not showing up. It's just kind of weird. But, yeah. So this is kind of a now thing for you folks. The South Central U.S., quiet today. Those storms could fire up as far west as eastern Arkansas. Memphis could get a storm or two this afternoon, this evening. And then there's some rain showers in Arkansas. Not a big deal at all. And then up here in the north central U.S., we're going to get some blizzard conditions. Really for a lot of blowing snow. But as you can tell, this kind of zonal lake-enhanced action for, I think it's the Kinawa Peninsula. Hopefully I'm saying that right. But you got blizzard conditions for you folks. Like Houghton, you guys, blowing snow today. Definitely going to get some steady accumulation. I don't think you're going to get like feet of snow, but these lake effect bandings will shift a little bit. The orientation will change to a little bit of a southerly flow, and then the eastern UP could start to get heavier snow getting into the overnight hours into tomorrow morning, and then our next system starts to show up on your screen. But the western U.S., system gonna fly through today, and then another system will probably move in. Well, let's back it up a little bit. I think I'm a day ahead. Yeah, I am. So this is Thursday. This is today. Here comes a system flying through into California. This will fly across the Rockies and then end up being our system for the central and U.S. and then the eastern U.S. So snowfall between now and the next 48 hours. Medford could get 2 to 3 inches of snow. So snow levels have certainly dropped in some of these areas. And then you head on down here to California, especially northern Cal. Sierra Nevada going to get rocked with feet of snow. So finally, you guys are getting a good snowfall for those ski slopes and snowboarding and stuff like that. And then definitely going to get a lot of heavy snow. Helena, 4 inches, 4.5 inches of snow. So you guys will get a good event out of this if you're a winter weather fan. And this is what you're looking like for these areas. So temperatures, another warm day across the south. You can see there is a big time temperature boundary right in here. Pretty wild stuff. Northeast locked into cold air. But I mean, even up here, I mean, what's wild is you're starting off with a winter weather event for a lot of these areas this morning, but by the time you get into this afternoon, it'll warm into above average temperatures. So locked in very cold temperatures in the northern section of the country, just very warm temperatures across the south today. So, some areas will probably hit 90 degrees in Texas today. Definitely just a chilly day across the plains. And then this is the northern sections of the Rockies. So that's all I got, guys. We'll continue to get very detailed. We're going to do a Bible devotion real quick, so you guys bear with me. I'm going to pull this up here. Let's see if I can do this. So this is the only, if you're a first-time viewer, it's only the third time you're doing this, so it might be a little rocky, guys. I think until we kind of get a good steady routine going with this, there's probably going to be some hiccups here and there. But this morning I'm looking at, let's see, Ephesians chapter 3, verse 20 through 21. So I'm going to read this and then I'll mention it a little bit. Make sure I don't read the wrong one here. It says, "Now to him who is able to do above and beyond all that we ask or think according to the power that works in us. To him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus to all generations forever and ever. Amen." So I think this passage really hits on how great our God is and what he's capable of doing, which is anything. And I think it really expresses that God's goal is not to necessarily fulfill our personal needs, but to be glorified. And I went to church. I think I heard this passage in our life group, which is kind of our Sunday school, and it was preaching a sermon. I think a lot of people go to church for their own desires to try. I think they, and trust me, I've done this, and sometimes I still do. And they kind of go into church. What can I get out of this? What can I pull from this? And don't get me wrong. You go to church and you certainly can walk out there and be like, man, that was great. That really hit home. And then maybe all of a sudden it changes your tune on many things, and all of a sudden you start living a much better life of following Christ. It happens all the time, whether it lasts a day, whether it lasts a lifetime. But I think that going into, for example, into church and making the reason of, hey, I'm here to praise God, to glorify the Lord, and to abide by his will, will open up everything else. You get what I'm saying? So, he knows your desires. He knows what you want, but he wants his will on your life. So, and I think that ties into what we've been talking about a lot. So, when you, I guess, go into church and trust me, I'm speaking to myself, to glorify him, whether that's through praise and worship, through singing, whether that's through prayer, whether that's through, volunteering at your church, giving, being a good steward. Go into it wanting to glorify him and to praise him. And yeah, hope that makes sense. So, and that's a tough one. That's a tough one to get because, like I said, you want to go into church and what can I get out of this? Sometimes, I'll be honest, sometimes I walked out of church saying and thought to myself, man, I didn't get anything out of that. Well, that's not the point. That's not the point. And trust me, that hit home to me when I heard that a couple years back. You're there to glorify the Lord and to really know how great he is. And I think that once that starts to click, everything else will follow. So hope that makes sense. So we'll continue to get better at that. God bless all y'all. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And I will have a video tonight, but if anything changes, I will let you guys know. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you soon.